This video tutorial has been put together for Charter Schools USA to guide you through setting up your Chalk.com account. Now before we go through setting up your account, let's take a look at how Chalk.com is here to help. We know that as a teacher, time is of the essence. At Chalk.com, we want to help as much as we can by developing tools to save time in some areas like lesson planning so you have more time to focus on other tasks. When it comes to lesson planning, there are many things that need to be considered. There are the standards to be covered, the Charter Schools USA curriculum maps, the Charter Schools USA lesson plan template, as well as any additional teacher resources used. With all these, you as a teacher need to make sure lessons are submitted regularly for review, need to keep lessons organized so they're easy to access in the future. You also need to keep track of your progression through the standards and be able to easily share your lessons and resources with colleagues so you can work together on improving student success. To help with these tasks, Chalk.com has developed Planboard, an online lesson planning tool used by over 150,000 teachers worldwide to plan, organize, and collaborate on lesson plans. In collaboration with CSUSA, Planboard has been set up for you to have access to all the resources you need with the goal of providing one easy-to-use tool to plan your lessons. Now let's take a look at how this works. Here we have a fully set up Planboard account with access to all the CSUSA resources. We're currently looking at Tuesday, March 15th through the day view and are ready to start planning Unit 5, Cluster 2 for our math subject. The first thing we're going to do is add a title to our lesson plan, which is going to make it easier to share with our colleagues later. Next, to start adding content to the lesson, we'll simply click into the lesson here and start by adding standards. Here we can see we have the standards that are available for this specific cluster, which we can add clicking this button here. Next, we're going to access some unit-specific content. Please note that the unit content is only available for math and ELA currently, and the curriculum specialist team at CSUSA will be working to make most subjects available by August 2016. From here, we can add things like the essential question to the top of our lesson, as well as identify any developmental scales that we'll be working on for the standards that have been assigned to this subject. You can see the standards showing up at the top here, also highlighted in green, and simply select the developmental scales that you'll be working on for that day. Now we'll go back to our lesson plan and we'll fill out other sections in our lesson, such as the rotation centers, as well as any accommodations that we need to accommodate for. Once you're done creating the content that will span this cluster, we'll be able to copy this content across multiple days so we don't have to retype it. Simply select all the days that you want to copy to from the calendar option showing here. Once you click copy lesson, that content will be copied across all those days you selected, and we can take a look at that from the week view using the navigation in the top right here. Now that we can see the basics for our lessons have been lined out, we can go into each individual day and make adjustments accordingly to represent what lesson we're teaching for that particular date. Now that we've finished planning our lessons for this cluster, we're ready to share them with our colleagues. We'll do this by clicking the share button in the top right of the week view, then select the subject we want to share and the dates we want to share. And once you've confirmed you have the right lessons in the list below, click share. From here, we're going to specify the individuals that we want to share with, as well as any grade level groups we'd like to share with. And you can also even share with your entire school if you'd like. Once you click share, it'll make these lessons available for those teachers. Now we can also look at lessons that were shared directly with us and then import those into our other subjects. We'll go ahead and do this with our ELA subject down below. First, click on the day that we want to import to, then click import in the top right. And once you've found the lessons that you're looking for in the list that's been provided to you, you can confirm that they're the right lessons from the titles and then import them to the correct subject. You'll now have these lesson plans scheduled in your Planboard account so you can review them, make any adjustments necessary, and use them in your classroom. We're now going to take a look at setting up your Chalk.com account. The rest of this video has been broken down into 4 steps. The first is going to walk through basic setup. We're then going to show you how to access the curriculum content made available by CSUSA. From there, we're going to see the various features that are available to you when creating your lesson plans so you're taking full advantage of Chalk.com. And finally, we'll take a look at the various sharing and importing features so that you can collaborate with your colleagues. To start your account setup, you'll want to go to your inbox and look for an email from Chalk.com with the subject Welcome to Chalk.com. And you'll want to click the Get Started link, which will bring you to a page that looks like this. From here, you'll start setting up your Chalk.com profile. First, put your name in. Then confirm you have the correct email address and you're in the correct school. From there, you'll want to set the password for your account. Moving forward, you'll use your email address and this password to log into your account from Chalk.com. The next step is to set up your semester. First, put a semester name, and you'll want to call it 2015-2016 school year. Next, we'll set the start date. This might change depending on what your needs are. However, you'll want to set it to the first day you're going to start planning lessons on. In this case, we're going to go ahead and set it to January 25th, as that is when we're starting our next unit. The next thing we're going to do is set the end date, which we'll set to May 27th. You'll just want to confirm that your days teaching are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and that you leave Saturday and Sunday unchecked. Go ahead and click Save to start creating subjects. First, click Add Subject to populate your first subject, and then click on the subject itself to start editing. You'll want to put the subject name at the top here. We'll start by creating our ELA class. Note that if you don't want the subject to be showing up with the grade level all the time, you can go ahead and remove that. You may not want it to say grade 5 all the time if you know you're teaching grade 5 students every day. The next section here is to set up your curriculum. We'll go ahead and leave that blank for now and revisit this in the next segment. Down here we have sections. Sections are what you want to set up if you have more than one group of students that are taking this subject. Right now we have one section, which indicates that we have one group of students that we're teaching ELA to. If we'd like to add more, we can click the plus sign. For now, we're just going to leave this and click Save to complete our first subject. You'll be asked if you'd like to move forward or do you want to add more subjects. Right now we're going to want to add some more subjects, so we're going to click Add Another Subject down below. From here, we'll click Add Subject again, and we'll go ahead and make edits to this new subject. This one we'll call our Arts, and we'll change the color to green. For this subject, we'll also add additional sections by clicking the plus sign. Here we can see we now have 3 sections for our art subject, which indicates that we have 3 different groups of students that we teach the art subject to. To make edits to these, you can click on the section and then adjust the name to represent either the period number that it's in, or if you'd like to set a teacher name, you can do that as well. For now, we're just going to put period numbers, and we'll adjust the colors for each to make it easier to distinguish between them. Once we're done editing that subject, we'll go ahead and click Save, and then Next to finish the setup. From here, you're going to want to click Lesson Plans, as we're going to be setting up our Planboard account for now. This is where you're going to set up your timetable. Make sure you read carefully the instructions that are provided to you from Mr. Chalk here. We'll go ahead and click Next, which will bring us to setting up our rotation schedule. When setting up your rotation schedule, you'll want to ask yourself, how long does it take for my schedule to repeat itself? If you have the same schedule every single day, you would want to adjust this to daily. You should notice that once you set it to daily, it's going to change the scheduling area in the center here so that you're only scheduling one day. And this day will repeat itself for the entire semester that you've set up. In our case, it goes from January 25th until May 27th. Once we've confirmed that, we'll start inserting classes into our schedule by clicking Insert Class. First thing you want to do is pick a section, so we'll pick our ELA class, and we'll adjust the times to 8 a.m. to 8:50. You'll want to check off that you're scheduling it on day 1, which is the only day available, and then click Insert Class to insert it into your schedule. As Mr. Chalk points out here, you can click and drag the classes if you'd like to adjust their times. Or, if you hover over it, you can use the X button here to remove it completely. Also note that you can make adjustments to your semester from the Semester Settings button here. Before we move on, we're going to add a few more classes to our schedule. You'll want to follow the same process for each of your subjects as you're adding them in. Now that you've finished setting up your schedule, you're ready to complete your setup by clicking Save and Continue. Once your planner is loaded, you'll get this congratulations message letting you know that you've completed the setup of your Planboard account. Take a moment to read the notes that are provided to you here and then click Continue. You've now been brought to the main page of your Planboard planner. Take a moment to read the walkthrough, which indicates where you're going to be able to type your lessons, where you can add units to your subjects, which we'll review in the next segment, the different options you have when planning your lessons, which will be reviewed in the lesson planning process, and the main menu that's available to you if you ever need to go back to your subjects and add new ones or add curriculum sets, as well as go back to your timetable if you ever need to make adjustments to your schedule. The next segment is going to review how to add your standards and curriculum. Before we import our curriculum maps, let's take a look at how this is going to work in Chalk.com. You'll notice that for each of your subjects, there's a unit tag in the top left corner here. These unit tags allow you to assign a unit to any individual lesson plan that you're creating in your Planboard account. You'll also note that there aren't currently any units created. Now, we're not going to create our units ourselves. We're actually going to access the curriculum maps that have been created by the curriculum specialists and import those into our planner so that we have access to the already created units. You'll want to note that these curriculum maps only exist for certain subjects. When we import these, it'll bring in all the curriculum content, including the units and clusters, as well as the standards you're going to need when creating your lesson plans. For all the subjects that don't have a curriculum map, we're going to go ahead and add the standards directly from the subjects page. Let's walk through that right now. To access the subjects page, you're going to want to hover in the top left corner and click Subjects. From here, we're going to select each of the subjects that doesn't currently have a curriculum map. Starting with art, we're going to go into where it says Search for Standards and Expectations and start searching for standards. You'll want to start by typing CSUSA, followed by the state that you're currently working in. Next, we're going to put the grade level that we're teaching, and finally the subject matter. As you can see, this is going to populate a list of standards that are available to you to add to this subject. You'll want to pick the ones that match what you've searched for, as well as have Planboard Official for the author. Once you add the set, you can confirm it's correct by seeing this official green check mark to the left of the standard set. When we're done, we're going to go ahead and click Save, and this now gives us access to those standards when planning art lessons. Now for our ELA subject, we're actually going to access the curriculum maps that have been created for ELA. To do this, we're going to hover in the top left corner and go to Resources. Resources is where content that's been shared out to you is accessible. You'll see this brief walkthrough, which shows you how you're going to be able to share content, which is covered in the last segment of this video, how you're able to access this content and manage it from here, as well as import content from other teachers into your own planner. Again, all these sharing features are going to be covered in more detail in the last segment of this video. For now, we're just going to access the curriculum maps that have been provided for us. As you can see, we have a list of different items here. We're going to go ahead and select the 5th grade ELA, as that's what we're looking for. Once you've selected the curriculum map that you want, click Import in the top right here. The next thing we're going to want to do is choose the semester we're importing to, then the subject, and then finally the date we want to start bringing content in. Now before we select the date, we're probably going to want to choose which units we're importing into our planner. At this point, we're currently starting on Unit 4, so I'm going to go ahead and start from here and check off all the units that we're going to import into our planner. Now that we've selected the units, we're going to select the date to start importing on, which is January 25th. Once we click Import, it's going to start bringing this content into our planner. Now this might take a moment as it's going to be creating a lot of content for you. You'll want to give this anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds. If it's taking longer than that to import your content, you'll want to refresh your browser and then check to make sure that it is imported correctly. We're going to go ahead and check that it's imported correctly as soon as we get the confirmation here, or if over 90 seconds has passed and it's still spinning. As we can see, the subject map has successfully imported, and we'll go ahead and navigate back to Planboard to confirm that it has imported correctly. The easiest way to do this is to take a look and see that you now have units for that subject. As you can see, when I click on the unit tag for ELA, I have all the units that I just selected to import into this subject. When I look at my art subject, I don't have access to these units. Now that we have our subjects set up with the standards that we need and the curriculum content that we need, we can now look at the lesson planning process to create your lesson plans in Chalk.com using the lesson plan template that's been provided by CSUSA. Before we start planning our lessons in Chalk.com, we're going to want to assign the template to our subjects. To access the template, use the menu in the top left corner and select Templates from the dropdown. Here, you'll see 3 different options. Select the option that is most applicable to you, whether it's middle high school, elementary school, or specials electives. For now, we're going to choose elementary school, and from here, we're going to assign all of our subjects to this template. Once you click Select All Subjects, you'll see a list of all your subjects populate in the list below. If there's one of them that you don't want to use this template and you'd rather use a different one, then you'll want to click the X on that subject. For now, I do want to use the elementary school template on both ELA and Art. You can take a quick look at the template itself here, but you're not able to make any edits from this page. What we want to do is click Save in the top right corner, and then go back to our planner to be able to see this template in our Planboard account. So we're going to hover in the top left and choose Planboard from the drop-down menu. Now, in our lesson plan, instead of there being nothing here, there's already the lesson plan template, so all we're going to do now is fill this in with our lesson plan content. The first thing you'll want to do when creating your lesson plan is to add standards. As you can see at the top here, it asks you to click the Add Standards button down here. From here, we can see that we have the standards that are applicable to this particular cluster available at the top here, as well as the entire standard set right below it. We can click into the cluster here and view the individual standards that can then be assigned to this specific lesson plan. For now, we're going to go ahead and click Add to a couple of these to add them to the lesson plan. If you can't quite find them, you can also use the search option at the top here so that you can search by keyword or by the codes. Once you've found the one you're looking for, click the Add button to the right of it. Once we click Save here, we'll be brought back to our lesson plan, and we can now see that these standards have been added to our lesson. If we hover over them, we'll be able to see a definition for those standards. The next thing we'll want to take a look at is adding unit content. In order to add unit content, you'll first want to make sure that you've applied a unit to this lesson plan. Now remember, there aren't units available for all subjects. Only some subjects will have units available for them. So if you don't have units available for one of your subjects, don't worry about this step. You'll simply want to move forward and start creating your lesson plan. Now to access the content for this particular unit, we're going to click the Unit Content button in the bottom right of the lesson here. As we can see, we have the standards that have been assigned to this lesson plan, and the various components from the curriculum map that are available for this unit. You can view them from here, and if you'd like to add them to the lesson plan, you can use the buttons at the bottom here to add to the top of the lesson or to the bottom. You also have the option of simply copying and pasting some of the content here. One of the components that you'll want to make sure you add is the standards and developmental scales. You'll notice that for each standard, there are 4 developmental scales you can choose from to indicate at what level you're teaching this particular lesson plan. For example, for this first standard here that I've assigned, I want to indicate that I'm teaching it at the 3rd developmental scale. Once I click to add that, it will add it to the lesson plan both at the bottom and top so that I won't miss that information. You'll want to make sure that you add this for each of your standards that you're teaching in this subject. Once you've finished adding the unit content, you can simply click outside this box to go back to your lesson plan. Here we can now see that we have our standards with their developmental scales displaying at the bottom, as well as the definition for those developmental skills showing at the top of your lesson. From here, what we're going to want to do is create the content in our lesson that is going to be applicable to more than one day. The reason we're doing this is to make the process of planning our lessons a little bit quicker. By planning in this way, we're going to be able to create the content on one day, copy it across to as many days or weeks as we need to, and then from there, we'll be able to fill in the individual content required for each lesson. When it comes to content that spans more than one day, you might want to consider adding things like the essential question to your lesson plan, as well as filling out fields in the template down below, such as the accommodations you're going to make for this subject, as well as some rotational groups. Once you've created the content that you want, and before you're ready to start filling in your daily content, you're going to want to start using the copy feature. Now when you're copying, you're going to probably copy to more than one day. If you'd like to see more than one day at a time, you might prefer using the week or unit view, which are available in the top right here. If I navigate to the week view, for example, I'll be able to see my Monday lesson plan with all its content, as well as all the other days of the week with their base content. So from here, I'm going to want to copy the content I created on Monday across to every day for this week because it's going to be used in all those lessons. So I'm going to click on my Monday lesson plan to start creating it. And you should notice that you have access to all the same content you did when we were looking at the day view. Before you copy, you might also want to add a title to the lesson plan so that it makes it easier for not only yourself, but for others to be able to see what the content is for this lesson. Now we're ready to copy. To do so, we're going to click the Options button in the top right, and then Copy Lesson from the drop-down menu. Here, we're going to be asked to choose a date we want to copy to, and then choose the subject. What I'm going to do now is choose each day for this week, and select ELA for each of those days. As you can see, each of the days I'm copying to is color-coded green, and the overall number of classes I'm copying to will be noted in the bottom right here. Once you've selected all the classes you want to copy to, click Copy Lesson. You'll now be asked to confirm that you want to overwrite those lesson plans. Note that you only want to click Yes here if you're absolutely sure you don't have any content on those days that you'll need. If you haven't planned anything at all for those days yet, you won't have to worry about anything. If, however, you have planned ahead, you may want to consider go back and check those days to make absolutely sure you don't have content there before you click Yes. Note that once you click Yes, you will not be able to recover any of the content you've overwritten. You can now see that the lesson plan that I had originally created on Monday, January 25th has been copied across to each of the days for this week. I can now go into any of the other days and click on the lesson to start adding content that would be specific for that day without having to retype anything that I've already planned when I created my Monday lesson. To adjust the title, I'll simply click in and type. And I can use any of the features available here to change the font color and size, as well as do things like insert images and videos directly into the lesson plan. In addition to these options, you can also upload files directly to the lesson and attach them similar to attaching a file to an email. All of the content in the lesson plan template is editable, so you're able to copy the tables and add to them if you'd like to. Once you've created some lesson plans, you'll be ready to collaborate with your colleagues and use the share options, which are covered in the next segment of this video. When sharing content in Chalk.com, you have two different options. You can either share an individual lesson, or you can share a lesson group. When sharing an individual lesson, the other teachers are able to import that single lesson into any of their classes in their planner. When you share a lesson group, you're able to import a whole week's worth or more of lessons all at once into a given subject. Let's start by looking at how to share an individual lesson. When sharing an individual lesson, you can do this from any of the day, week, or unit views. Anywhere where you can create your lesson, you're also able to share it. Let's go ahead and select this lesson for Wednesday and choose the share option in the top right of the lesson here. Note that this same share button is also available from the options menu here. Once I click share, it's going to ask you to specify who you would like to share with. From here, you can go ahead and type an individual's name. You can also type a grade level or department level group that you're part of, or your whole school. And you also have the option to share with the entire CSUSA network. Now this would make it available to all teachers throughout all the schools that are part of this Chalk.com pilot. From all the selections you've made, you'll be able to see them below here. Once you've chosen all the groups or individuals that you'd like to share with, once you've chosen all the individuals or groups that you want to share with, you'll want to apply tags to the lesson. For tags, we recommend that you apply things like the unit number, the week number for the year, as well as the subject matter. You're free to add as many tags as you'd like. The reason that you're adding tags is to make it easier for other teachers to find this content. Once we click share, we've officially shared this lesson plan out to everyone that was on that list. Now let's take a look at sharing lesson groups. If you're going to share lesson groups, you want to do it from either the week or the month view. If we do it from the week view, we can share a week's worth of lessons at a time, and from the month view, a month's worth. To do this, we're going to click the Share button in the top right corner here, and then we'll select which section we want to share. From here, we can see that the start and end dates have been set to the current week that I'm looking at. And you'll also notice that we have the 5 lesson plans that have been created for our ELA subject here, as well as a title called ELA Lessons for the Week of January 25th. If you're okay with how this is set up, you can go ahead and click Share to make it available to others. Note that you have the options of changing the dates here, so you can change how many lessons are in this group, and you can also change the title so that it better reflects what you're sharing. For example, if you'd like to share 2 weeks of lessons at a time, you can adjust the end date to the following Friday, and then adjust the title here to represent that it shows 2 weeks of lessons in this lesson group. Note also that you can choose individual lessons that you want to remove from this group. So currently, we're only sharing 8 of these 10 lessons. For now, I'm going to go ahead and change this back to 1 week, and we'll go ahead and share all 5 of these lessons in one lesson group. Once you click Share, you have the same share options we had when you're sharing an individual lesson. We'll go ahead and share it with the entire CSUSA network. We'll also want to make sure that we add tags to this lesson group. Once content has been shared with you, you'll want to import it in order to be able to access it in your Planboard account. Let's say, for example, we want to import the lesson group that we just shared to the following week on our planner. The first thing we're going to want to do is navigate to the week that we want to import to. Once we've selected the day that we want to import to, we'll then want to use the import option in the top right here. Again, this import option is available from the options menu down here. From here, the first thing we'll want to specify is whether we're importing a lesson or a lesson group. Once you've chosen what you're trying to look for, you can then use the search bar at the top here to help find what you're looking for. This is why it's helpful to apply tags to your lessons. For example, I can filter by the ELA tag, and right away I can see I only have this one lesson group for ELA. I can also use other filters to make it easier to find what I'm looking for. Once you've selected the lesson group, you can choose which of these lessons you want to import and which ones you don't. For now, we're going to go ahead and import the whole week by clicking Next. Here, you'll want to confirm that you're importing to the correct date, as well as the correct subject from the list that shows here. Once I click Import, it's going to ask me would I like to shift content out of the way, or would I like to overwrite any content that's in the way. Note that if I overwrite, I will not be able to recover this content. So you only want to click Overwrite if you're absolutely sure you don't have any lesson plan content planned for that week. If you're not 100% sure, you can use the Shift option, which will just push that content ahead by 1 week. For now, because we know we don't have anything planned for that week, we're going to use the Overwrite option. Now we can see that we have the week's worth of lessons that were shared from the previous week imported into the first week of February. From here, I'm able to make changes to this week of lessons without impacting the ones that I originally imported. Thank you for taking a look at our video tutorials. Please make sure to take a look at some of the other supporting materials we have, including these one-pagers and slide decks that will walk through the same process we covered in this video tutorial.